If you do have to cough, you run.
Yes, run fast.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about what I call the essence of education for life, or what is the foundation on which all the rest of the principles that we work with are based. And it sounds to me from what all I've heard you all presenting and sharing that you already have a really great grasp on it. So just look at this as review. So first of all is the whole goal of education, which I think by now everybody knows is what word is our goal? Starts with the M, maturity, and that as we define as the ability to relate appropriately to realities other than one's own. Tonight I was, of course, looking at Facebook earlier, and someone I try not to watch every little video that people post because you can waste a lot of time that way, but when two people I really like a lot post the same thing twice, then I look, So this film has gone viral about someone criticizing a Muslim and how an American soldier next responded. Has anybody else seen it? And so I was watching it, and it really is nice. It's 6 minutes, and it was one of those TV programs that's a modern one that's like Candid Camera was when I was a child. And they had two actors. One was playing a Muslim guy. You could tell he was Muslim only because he looked Middle Eastern. He had on a cap, which actually looked Jewish to me. I don't know. And then this other actor is this white guy, a teenager kind of. They're both young. They're both maybe 20. And the Muslim's working in a deli. And the white guy comes in, and he starts giving a really hard time. Says, "Is there somebody else that can take my order?" And the guy says, "I can take your order." He says, "I don't want any Muslim serving me. Well, I don't want any terrorists serving me." And so the whole point was to see what people would do if anybody would stand up for him. And so they show several little shorts of people. One person actually joined him and said, "I know exactly what you mean." But the others that they showed, one woman said, she turned to her and said, "Don't you think so?" And she said, "I think you're being extremely inappropriate." And he said, "Well, you could be my sister. You're white like me." And she said, "I hope my little brother never acts like you." But the whole point was it climaxes with this American soldier. And the American soldier just looks at him and he says, "I think you need to go somewhere else to shop." And the guy just keeps trying to egg him on. And finally he says, "Isn't this what you're fighting for, to keep these terrorists out of our country?" And the guy turns around and he says, "No, the reason I'm wearing this uniform is so that every American can have their inalienable rights. He can be a Muslim if he wants to." And there's all this, and then the guys come out from behind the camera, and he finds out it was all, and everybody's all happy and so on. Well, it's such a great little encapsulation of what's meant by maturity, because you start with people that if you're other than me, you're not part of my reality. And then we go a little further out, and our family is our reality. This is the same progress we make when we're a baby. There's no reality but me and maybe mama. And then we go out and we incorporate daddy and brothers and sisters, and then our playmates at school, and pretty soon our community. And this little field clip was great, but I thought, well, it sure stops pretty close in. If you're American, then you're okay, and we're going to fight to protect your inalienable rights because you're American, no matter what your religion or color. Well, wait a minute. Wouldn't we do this for anyone in the world? And not to pick on this guy. He was doing the right thing, and he had such a gentle, sweet nature, you could feel it. But I'm sure that he would do the same thing somewhere else, that he would stand up for the underdog somewhere else. But it's just a perfect example of that, the expansion you want to see students go through till suddenly there is no other reality. You realize that oneness, and that whatever affects anyone affects me. And so as some of you put it, we're reporting on your chapters. How do we do that? Do we do that by telling people, "Oh, you ought to share"? "Oh, you ought to give, you ought to compromise"? No, they have to have experiences. Because if you think about in your own life how you learned all your lessons that are helping you expand beyond your own little ego, how did you learn? Was it because somebody kept telling you? Was it because your mother kept lecturing you? You know what kids learn when we give them the same lecture over and over, like you better share your toys, you should share? You learn to share when she's there. But when she leaves the room, Do you share? No, because this has been imposed from outside. So I think as it was Matthew who said, we have to find experiences where they have where they do the right thing, the expansive thing, and then point out, hey, how does everybody feel now? So one example that I love to use because it's just so easy to understand is the teacher in the older classes at our Portland Living Wisdom School, 5th, 6th, 7th grade. Every year at Valentine's Day they make cookies, and they make enough that they can have one, but they are really making them for the kindergarten, for Helen's class. And they wrap them up. Some of the kids bake the cookies, and those who really love art better make little tags with each child's name and say, Happy Valentine's Day from your secret pal. And they wrap them all up pretty in cellophane, put bows, and they get really excited because they love secrets. And so they watch for when the kindergarten's outside, and they sneak in there and somebody's waiting at the door. This is just big high drama, pretend. And they leave them on the tables. And the neat things, I mean, the kindergartners come in and they find them, and they have such innocence, you guys. They really don't know who brought them. I mean, they guess, and they guess all kinds of things, and they never find out. And the students have the joy of not getting credit, but just seeing how much. And later on, at some point, that comes up again, or there's an opportunity, the teacher might say, oh, remember when we made the cookies? And, oh yeah, wow, that was really fun. What made that so much fun, do you think? Just getting them to reflect. And of course, the opposite too, just getting them to reflect on any experience. One time I was at the school when the older class came back from seeing a play at the Children's Theater. Well, I don't know if any of you have, probably none of you, except maybe a couple of grandmothers, have been to a children's play in the last few years. Have any of you? But what they think is appropriate for children nowadays is amazing. I guess part of it is the culture's just so insensitive, but I think part of it too is they're trying to appeal to all ages, and they want the parents to be engaged too. So they'll have double entendres that have sexual references. I mean, it's just amazing. And this one, I didn't go see it. I think it might have been Peter Pan, but I'm not sure. And the students came back, and they usually come back, the arts, you know, stories and plays, everybody loves them. They usually come back so happy, and they came in, and they were just seeing, you know, ordinary. I said, well, how was the play? Okay, it's all right. And then one real truth-telling girl said, yeah, I didn't really like it. And then the boys in the class said, Usha, you would not have liked it. And I knew that was code for, there was something that really bothered us, but we can't admit it because we're cool. So we'll say, you wouldn't have liked it. And I said, well, what was it? And they couldn't really articulate it, and the teacher said, it was just dark. I think the crocodiles were really evil, and it was threatening, and for little children were scared. And so I could have given them a lecture about, well, I said, you feel like you need a shower? And they went, yeah. And I said, well, what are things we can do to change our energy? Because these are things we talk about at school all the time. And some of them think, oh, well, we could do this, or we could, you know, they're suggesting things I could tell they're not that much into. I said, well, how about if we sing? Because the girl who was telling the truth loved to sing and had a beautiful voice. In fact, some of you know her. I'll tell you later who she is. And I said, how about if we sing? And she goes, yeah. I said, start us off. And so we just sang one of our favorite happy songs. So do you see, that's giving them an experience. It's not saying, when you're exposed to negativity, go do something positive. It's doing something positive with them. Because what do they learn the most? What do we all learn the most from? It's from the models that we have. I mean, face it, when we go to inspiring talks, or we turn on the TV to listen to a TED Talk, turn on our computers and listen to a TED Talk that we're inspired by, it's only partly, very minorly really, the information that we get. It's the magnetism. It's the power behind what that person's saying. It's the vibration in their voice because they believe in what they're talking about and because they've had a lot of experience with it. Isn't that what really helps us expand and consider a new point of view? And so the most important factor, of course, in leading others or being a teacher is who we are ourselves and what we're modeling. And you know, we may know that, but it's hard to keep it, to remember it, because when the kid for the 5th time has interrupted you and you want to scream, "Stop interrupting me!" you know, but you know that if you lose your temper, how can you expect them to keep their cool? So you have to be what you want them to be, and telling them to be it is not it. So experience is one of the big E's that I think of that is at the core of what is EFL about. And the other one's another E, and that is, think of the building we have in Laurelwood campus where we have all our classrooms, and we call it expansion. Expansion is the center of everything, because what is maturity? Expanding our own realities. And we've found that if you think about, and any time you have a difficult decision to make, if you think about what would be most expansive for the most people in the situation, you'll come up with the right answer. So just to give you another simple example, I remember at the Village, after there'd been a Ananda Village in Nevada City, California, for those who might be watching this on video, there was a huge financial crisis. Took a lot of money, there was a lot of angst involved, many months of struggle, and at the end of that, everybody's pretty exhausted, drained, resources drained, they want to kick back. I wanted to kick back anyway. But some wiser heads than I started talking about, we need a different temple than the Expanding Light Temple. Let's turn the publication buildings into a yoga temple. And I remember thinking, that is the craziest thing I've ever heard. Why are we going to spend money doing that when we don't have any money? But you know what happened, I guess. I hope you know what happened. Is then all this inspiration came, and people were excited. People came together on work days. They scrounged to make it beautiful. People came in and decorated, and suddenly there was something positive to think about. So it was like expanding the energy from a contracted state and giving an experience. Those two E's go together. Some decisions are just really, really difficult, like asking someone to leave, whether it's from an organization or from a private school. Of course, even public schools have to do that occasionally. And how do you make that decision? When is every individual is critical. People are more important than things. And didn't you just say true education is self-education? Wasn't that the title of your chapter? So it's about the individual. So you're concerned, no matter what their behavior is, you know that it's ignorance. You know they're doing the best they can for what they know. And so you want to help them by giving them some more experiences, but what if what they're doing is destructive for the rest of the group? Can you be sure that by asking them to leave, it wouldn't be expansive for them? Maybe it's more contractive for them to stay here and continue in that. I know very few times that we've had a student whose behavior, they just they were starting to be the bad guy or the bad girl in the class. That actually, when we helped the parents see that we weren't meeting their needs anymore, and they went to a different school where there's a much wider variety of kids, much wider variety of specific gravity, they actually shone, because they were in an energy where their type of energy could be expansive. They could be themselves. They could express and learn their next lesson. It's really tricky, but I think at the core, when we think about what helps us expand, and as we are teachers, are we expanding every day? Because if we get stuck, whether we're a teacher or we're the manager of an organization or we're head of water and wastewater, or whether as long as we're working with other people, we have to just check our own energy. And am I contracting or expanding? Because how can we help others? At least I have to ask myself that a lot, If I'm not expansive, if I'm not living it. So experience and expansion are at the core of education for life. I think if you keep those two in mind as we're working with all the principles that we're talking about, specific gravity and tools of maturity, that you can't go wrong. Thank you so much.